Well. Gather round, my dear listeners, for the night has come alive once more, and what a night it shall be. After a brief respite, we return to the airwaves, not just the whispers, but a full hour of tales, mystery, and things that lurk just beyond the veil. Tonight we step into the land of yokai, spirits, creatures, and phantoms from worlds steeped in legend. But that ain't all. No, sir. We'll also be diving into a few other strange and unsettling stories to keep your spine tingling and your senses sharp. So pour yourself a drink, dim the lights, and settle in, because once we begin, there's no telling what shadows might stir. Now, to start off the story, before we start with our tales of tonight, I want to let everybody know that we do have a few stories that are pretty short, mostly to kind of move. For one, they didn't really give much detail in them, but I do have some also longer ones. So, which we'll do a few long ones first to kind of get the night going, and we will also do, let's say about 4 to 5 stories before our first break tonight. So let's jump right into it and start off with a story submitted by Marcus D. from Louisville, Kentucky. And it's called The Forgotten Hospital, which I'm already kind of concerned by the name. For one, I've never been a fan of hospitals, and still ain't, and probably never will be. So let's jump right into it, and let's see. Here we are. If this makes it on air, I just want people to know what's still out there. Some places don't rot; they wait. My name is Marcus. I'm honestly before I continue, I made sure to get permission to use this, so don't worry about names being flown around in the airwaves. All right. And back in 2018, I used to do urban exploration with a few friends. Nothing fancy, just old houses, abandoned factories, stuff like that. We documented everything for a YouTube channel. YouTube. All right, never mind. That never really took off, but we weren't doing it for likes. We were doing it for the thrill. Pushing it to forgotten places felt like stepping into the past, until we found a place that remembered us. It's called the Pollyanna's Medical Center. That name sounds familiar. I feel like I've probably seen that in the paper somewhere, but I don't know. Tucked deep into the outskirts of town, I'd never heard of it. But a friend of a friend dropped a pin on a map and told us it was an old TB hospital that shut down in the late 60s after some kind of fire. No official records of it exist online. That should have been our first red flag. Well, first off, anything that has been burned down, even in the late 60s, is already a big red flag. But that's just me. We went at dusk. Me, Jamie, and Theo. The road there wasn't even paved anymore. Trees had claimed half the path, and there were no birds, just still dead air and that crunched under our boots on gravel. Wait, hold on. Did I read that correctly, or was that typo? Dead air and the crunch of our boots. Oh, yep. That was just it seemed like some mishaps of writing here. The hospital finally came into view after about 10-minute hike. 3 stories tall, burnt in spots with shattered windows and looked like open mouths. So that means that whatever shattered them made it look like that. Okay. Creepy. I remember saying out loud, "It feels like it's watching us." Jamie laughed, Theo didn't. The inside was worse. Old gurneys rusted in corners, paperwork scattered everywhere, yellowed and brittle. Most of it unreadable, but some of the files, no joke, had names and photos still intact, like they were preserved. Some places actually can preserve stuff like that for long periods of time. The hall stretched long and narrow, and something about the way sound echoed didn't feel right. That's another typo. All right. Our footsteps always felt delayed, like the building wasn't empty. And then we heard a loud bang from the 3rd floor. We froze. No animals, no wind, nothing could have made a sound like that. It echoed like something had slammed the metal door. Jamie wanted to leave, but Theo pushed ahead. He said, "If someone's up there, they need help or they're squatting. Either way, we should check." Before I continue, I think it's dangerous either way. If it's probably not either way. If someone needs help, they need help. But squatters is a touchy situation because you don't know what kind of dangerous, what kind of dangerous people they are. We climbed the stairs. The third floor had once been the psychiatric wing. There we go. Most of the doors were chained shut from the outside. The paint was peeling in long, fleshy strips. As we moved down the hall, we passed a room that looked untouched. Beds still made, charts still clipped at the ends, and on the far wall, written in something too dark to be paint, were words, "We never left." Now that right there, if I saw something like that written on the wall, I'm leaving. I'd be one of the ones that do leave. Suddenly, all of our flashlights flickered. Theo's died completely. We turned to leave, but the hallway behind us was different. I swear to God, the layout had changed. Doors that weren't there before now lined both sides. The ceiling felt lower somehow. And then we heard voices, not speaking, whimpering, crying, coming from every room. Jamie panicked and took off running. I chased after him while Theo tried to keep up. We lost him around the second floor. Just gone. Like he disappeared into one of the rooms, but they were all locked. Now, my thoughts on that is, and this may sound a bit rude to lots of people out there, you're on your own. I'm not sticking around to find out. We searched for almost an hour, no sign of Jamie, and then the emergency lights came on. The power was back on. Except the hospital has no power source. All the lights glowed sickly yellow. Intercom speakers crackled above us and then whispered static with, "We swore were words, do not leave him." I don't remember doing that myself, so that couldn't have been me doing that. That's when Theo screamed. I turned and saw him being dragged into one of the patient rooms by something I couldn't make out. Just black limbs, thin and fast. I didn't stay. I ran. And the halls didn't try to stop me this time. When I made it out, it was morning somehow. I'd only been in there a couple hours, but it was full daylight. Jamie and Theo were never found. Cops searched the area, but they said the building didn't match my photos. They said St. Pollyanna's burned down completely in 1972. Only the foundation should have been there. No walls, no roof. I have footage. Only a few minutes survived, but one clip still plays. It's of the hallway on the third floor. And just before it cuts off, there's a tall, thin figure in a nurse's uniform standing behind Jamie, face covered in gauze, eyes glowing through the cloth. She whispers, in a voice not her own, "One stays, one leaves." I left. I haven't been back since. I dream about it, about how the halls breathed, how this building shifted, and how Jamie's still in there waiting. If you find it, don't go inside. Some places don't want to be found, and some places remember you. Now, my thoughts on that is that I've always found it quite interesting that people out there do find the thrill of going through these places, but for the life of me, I will never understood what brings that, what causes people to want to go out to these places, because they're dangerous. A lot of them are dangerous still, even to this day, and not in the sense of, probably the horrors out there too, but mostly just the fact that they are in the ruins. They're falling apart, they're not stable. So, why? But, again, 'tis your own. Alright, on to the next story. This one is about the Jersey Devil, submitted by Dylan R. from Hamilton NJ, New Jersey. Alright, so we're in New Jersey this time. Now, before starting off, I've heard these are some of the few stories I have I made sure to look over some. This is not one of them. This one's actually pretty new. The Jersey Devil I've heard stories about in papers and other on the telly and stuff like that. But I've don't. It's one of those things like one of those cryptids I cannot bring myself to believe easily. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a decent amount of witnesses out there that talks about it. So I can't completely throw it out the window that it exists. But it's just one of those things that you kind of that makes you question things. Anyways, let's jump right in. I grew up in Pine Barrens, not just near them, in them. My family owns a stretch of land about 15 minutes outside Hamilton. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You can drive in any direction and not see another house for miles. When you're a kid, it's exciting, mysterious. But when you grow up out there, you learn to respect the woods and what lives in them. We always joked about the Jersey Devil. I mean, everyone around here has a story. My grandpa used to tell me it would snatch up kids who wandered off too far. Hooves, wings, and red eyes like brake lights? Brake lights, okay, from a car. He'd said I never believed him. Not until last October. I had just come home for a weekend visit. My mom was sick, and I promised I'd help stack some firewood for the winter. Around 10 p.m., I was out back behind the shed, splitting the logs by the light of a motion lamp. It was cold, real quiet. It was almost done when I heard branches snapping in the trees beyond the clearing. Now this is like I said, one of those things, like it could be anything, especially out in the woods. It could be a bear, a deer, any kind of forest-like creature. But again, I was not there. I didn't experience it, so not my story to tell either. Not just twigs, big ones, something heavy. I called out thinking it might be a bear or maybe a deer. See, right there, like Rod just said. Maybe a bear or deer. But the sounds didn't match. There was something flapping. Not steady like a bird. Thick, slow wings. Like someone shaking out a tarp. I froze. Then I heard a scream. Not an animal. Not human either. It was something in between. Like a dying elk mixed with metal grinding. Loud and angry. It echoed over the trees and made the hairs on my arms stand up. A dying elk. I don't know what a dying elk sounds like, but I know what metal grinding sounds like. And it is an unimaginable sound. So I don't, a mix between the two probably sounds very, very, like, just unearthly. It flew over the clearing just once. Big as a man, maybe bigger. Wings like a bat, long and ragged. Its body was hunched and thin, like a starving greyhound. But what I remembered most were the legs, thin and bony, ending with hooves. It has a long tail and a head like a horse skull, with curled horns and those glowing red eyes. I could have sworn, well, I guess again, people have their own interpretations of it. I could have sworn it was a goat head, not a horse skull. But it passed right over me and disappeared into the trees. Not a word, not a second glance. I dropped the axe and sprinted inside. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the window with a flashlight and a shotgun. I barely knew how to use. Shotgun I barely, okay, I don't know why. Oh, there's a lot of, what you call it, mishaps going on. Is it the gremlins again? My mom thought I was drunk. I never told her what I saw. But the next morning I found the axe, and around it, in the forest-covered dirt, were hoof prints. Not deer, not horse, just two deep, heavy, like something stood there. I still go back to visit, but I don't go near the woods at night. Not anymore. You hear a lot of stories growing up in barrens, and you laugh them off until one becomes yours. If you're ever driving late late at night and hear something screaming above the treetops, don't stop, because something out there is watching. Again, one of those stories that is unnerving, because you don't really get to imagine a mix of certain sounds flapping, I would have thought it would be a large owl, or even a bald eagle for that matter. But tarp, the sound of a tarp, that's more in the line of that has to be large. If you can match the sound of a tarp being, I guess, cleaned or cleared off to something that's flying over you, then that says a lot, because that's very well detailed in something like that. But again, that was one story of the Jersey Devil, which I still find interesting. Still have my doubts, but we don't know what's out there in this world. Now then, this one's actually an anonymous one again this time, and it's called "It Was Watching Us from the Tree Line." Like the last one, I have not read it, but from what I understand, it is about another cryptid, which I think a lot of people has forgotten about these days, called the Rake. R-A-K-E. I don't know how many of you guys out there know of such, or have heard of such creature, but it is a creature I have known pretty well over the years, just because of my fascination with the idea of it, especially with how there has been some movies and stuff on the telly that you will see about it. There was one movie that caught my attention years ago, but I don't remember what it's called. Anyways, let's get right into it. We were up in the northern Pennsylvania in a part of the forest that barely gets any foot traffic. One of those no service, no problem places where you hike off the beaten trail and pitch your tent somewhere quiet. There were four of us, me, my girlfriend Jessie, and our friends Rob and Sarah. We had two tents, one fire, and just enough beer to pretend we weren't sleeping on the rocks and sticks. See, that's where I become skeptical, is when you bring alcohol or any kind of substance involved, because depending on how well you can handle your alcohol or other substance, you could just be off your rockers. Everything was fine the first day. We hiked, swam in a stream we found, cooked sausages over the fire. That night we stayed up late telling ghost stories. Ironic, now that I think about it. Jessie was the first to say something felt off. Around midnight she said she kept hearing twigs snapping just outside the firelight. We thought it was a deer or maybe a raccoon. It's the woods, you expect that. But I started hearing it too. Slow steps circling the camp. Not fast, not skittish. It was like it was studying us. How would you determine something studying you, especially if you're in a tent? You don't see it, so why? How would you determine that? But you do you, I guess. Rob called out, thinking maybe it was another camper messing with us. No one answered. Then we heard the wheezing, like someone gasping for breath, but trying to stay quiet. I shone my flashlight into the woods. Nothing, but the sound stopped when I did. Sarah suggested we go to sleep and ignore it. We all laughed it off, but none of us were really laughing. I fell asleep sometime after 2 a.m. I woke up maybe an hour later to the sound of whispering. Except it wasn't in our tent. It was right outside. I held my breath. Jessie was next to me asleep. I slowly sat up and grabbed my light. But before I could switch it on, I heard scraping, like claws across the nylon of our tent wall. Then a voice right next to my ear. Not a word, just a sound. I panicked. Switched on the light. Nothing. About 20 feet away, just on the edge of the trees, I saw two eyes reflecting the beam. It was crouched, naked, pale, the size of a man, but all wrong. Its arms were too long. Its face was flat. No nose, no lips, just wide eyes and a mouth that didn't blink. It moved when I looked away. Only then, every time I flicked my light somewhere else, it was closer. I whispered for Jessie to wake up. But when she did and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. We bolted out of the tent. Rob and Sarah were already awake. Freaked out, Rob had seen it too, from his tent. Said it stood just outside and crouched like a runner about to take off. We didn't pack, we ran. Took the trail back by flashlight. No one talked. We just ran until we saw our cars at the trailhead. It never chased us. It didn't need to. Now, it looks like it does continue just a little. Back home, I started searching online. I didn't even know what to look for until I came across a picture labeled The Rake. That's it. That's what I saw. Since that night, I've had dreams about it. Always watching, always crouched just outside the light. I don't camp anymore. Hell, I barely go outside after dark. Jesse left me 2 months ago, said I wasn't the same. Oh, that's a bummer. But I know what I saw, and if you're out in the woods and you hear something breathing behind you, don't turn around. It's already seen you. Now, this is one of those stories that I always have a fascination of that said creature, because you don't, from how media these days portray such a thing, it is a very disturbed creature. From one story I remember years ago, it was a scientific experiment that gone wrong, or of some sorts. But then you got ones of, what's that experiment that country did? What was it? The Russian sleep experiment. Some people have actually tried to connect those two together as a thing, but I don't know. I don't know anything about that one. I don't know much about that side of the world. Anyways, let's see. We got probably 2 more stories before we go on our first break. Let's see. We got a couple small ones. Here's one of them I actually wanted to talk about. It's a yokai story. Now, again, this is another anonymous one, but they did say where they live. It's in Tokyo somewhere, at least. Alright, and yeah, it's pretty short, so we'll get right into it and see what I think of it. I used to live in Tokyo, but my grandma's house was in a small village up in the mountains. Every summer I'd visit her, and every summer she'd tell me the same warnings. If a woman with no face ever speaks to you, do not answer. First up, my question is, how would she even say anything to you, for one? And two, run. Just run. Don't, you see nobody with a face, just run. I thought it was just an old folktale until I saw her. It was late, and I was walking home from a friend's place when I noticed someone ahead of me. A woman in a pale kimono stood near a vending machine, her long black hair covering most of her face. As I walked past, she turned to me. "Excuse me," she said in a soft, whispery voice. Something about her felt wrong. My grandmother's warning echoed in my head, so I kept walking, not looking back. Then I heard a low, wet, gurgling sound. I turned just for a second. Her hair had parted. She had no face, just smooth, pale skin where her eyes, a nose, and a mouth should have been. I ran, sprinting the rest of the way home, and locked the door behind me. When I told my grandmother, she just nodded. "You were lucky," she said. "If you had answered her, she would have had taken your face." Right there is why I enjoy yokais, at least in that part of the world. Their stories, even though short, they are creepy as hell. I don't know how they come up with this, if it is any signs of grounds of it being real. I am glad we don't have that stuff here. I can imagine. Too scared. Now, let's see. We got another short one. But this one is, again, anonymous, but as well another yokai story from Japan. Now, it doesn't say anything exactly where, per se, from what I'm just skimming, but it does seem somewhere in the forest. Anyways, I was visiting an old shrine deep in the forest with some friends. It was said to be haunted by a Korobozu? I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. I don't even know what it is, so I'm just going to go along with it. A shadowy monk that feeds on people's fears. Okay, that answers my question. We didn't believe it until the sun set. The air got cold and the shadows started moving, stretching, twisting in ways they shouldn't. Then we heard the breathing, slow, deep, hungry. Something dark and too tall moved behind the shrine. His long, bony fingers curled around the wooden beams. We ran. As we fled, I felt something brush my back, a freezing, claw-like touch. When we got home, my friend found 3 thin, black marks on his neck, like fingers had pressed into his skin. They never faded, and he's never been the same since. Now, I don't know how I feel about that one. That one's not as creepy. It reminds me of what we would consider demons here, but still interesting to say the least. Yeah, I don't really have much other thoughts on that. Yeah, no, nothing's coming to mind. We will do. We will do one more. This is another short one, but this one's not a yokai one this time. This one's actually within the States, but nowhere exactly, specific. Anyways, me and my friends used to explore abandoned places. One night we found an old factory just outside of town. The second we stepped in, everything went silent. No wind, no cars, even our footsteps made no sound. We split up to explore, but within minutes, we all came running back. Why? Because each of us had seen someone, a tall, shadowy figure standing in the corners, watching. We left fast, but when we got outside, something whispered my name. The weirdest part, none of my friends heard it. Now, even though that was pretty short, there wasn't a lot to go on that one, and I don't have a lot of thoughts on it besides the fact that it's probably very insulated, if I had to guess. The place is probably insulated. But the fact is that nobody heard the whisper of your name and a shadowy figure standing in the corner. Because again, it is an abandoned factory. There could be explanations, but I'll take it as is. Because we all enjoy these kind of things. We all enjoy a horror here and there. So let's see. Let's see what's the next story we have for now. Okay, we have. All right, there we go. I almost lost track. Almost lost my papers. We will continue on with another yokai, it seems. But for now, my dear listeners, even the finest tales need a moment to breathe, and so do we. Consider this your intermission, a brief respite before we plunge once more into the strange and unknown. Now, don't go wandering too far into the dark, lest you find something staring back. Stretch those legs, refill the drink, and keep your ears sharp, because when we return, the stories only grow stranger. And remember, the night is long, and who knows what might be waiting when we resume. are, darlings, back from the depths of the break and ready to wade once more into the unknown. I do hope you haven't wandered too far or worse, found something lurking in the shadows while we were away. But fear not, you're back in the warmth of our broadcast, safe and sound. Or as safe as one can be when the veil of reality begins to thin. Now then, where were we? Yes. We are starting off with the next yokai story called The Laughing Fox, submitted by Ellie V. Now, let's see. Doing a quick skim. It does not look like there's really much. Oh, nope. I actually see where we're at in this one. Alright. Now then, let's jump right in. I know this sounds insane. I know how it's going to sound. I've kept this to myself for almost 10 years, and lately it's been coming back in my dreams. In that weird silence between 3 and 4 a.m., when the world feels too still, I need someone, anyone, to know what I saw, because I think it saw me too. This happens in 2015. This happened in 2015. Okay, that was a while ago. I was hiking the Oregon backcountry, not far from the Umatilla National Forest. I'd been doing solo trips for years, so I wasn't exactly green. That phrasing is weird. But this trip felt different from the start. It was the air, heavy, humid, and quiet. No birds, no squirrels, just trees so dense it felt like walls. I should have trusted my gut and turned back, but I didn't. Of course, but nobody trusts their guts. How many of you actually trust your guts about something when it actually, throws it right into you like someone throwing a rock in your face? I don't know how many people actually follow their gut most of the time. It's kind of hard to do so, especially when it's very faint. Anyways, out with my rant. I camped out for the night near a creek. The sun went down fast, and I made a fire, read a bit, and turned in early. I woke up sometime after midnight to laughter, faint but sharp, like someone trying to imitate a child giggling. It echoed between the trees, too far off to pinpoint, too close to ignore. I sat up, heart pounding. I thought maybe it was coyote or some animal making a weird call, but then I heard it again. The last part wasn't a giggling, it was sharp, deliberate, almost mocking. I got out of my tent with a flashlight, scanned the woods, but saw nothing. Still, I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day I kept hiking. I figured it was someone playing tricks. They'd get bored eventually, but as I moved deeper into the woods, I started noticing things. Little piles of stone along the trail, stacked in threes. Bits of fur tied to branches. Then halfway through the day, I found footprints. Not boots, not paws. Bare feet. Small ones. Except they had claw marks. I turned around. I didn't care how far I'd planned to hike. I was done. But as I backtracked, the laughter started again. Not far off this time, following me. I started running. The woods shifted. I swear to God, the trees looked different. I couldn't find my markers. I was going in circles. Everything felt too quiet again. I called out, hoping maybe another hiker was nearby. And then I saw it. A fox. But it wasn't right. It stood on 2 legs, maybe 5 feet tall. Its fur was too thin, patchy, revealing grayish skin underneath. Its eyes were huge and round, glowing faintly in the shadows, and its mouth, it stretched too wide when it smiled. I swear it smiled at me. Then it laughed. Not an animal sound, not a bark or a yip. A human laugh. Mocking. Childlike. I ran. No looking back, no thinking. Just sprinting until my legs gave out. Somehow, I still don't know how, I stumbled into a ranger's clearing hours later. They found me disoriented, dehydrated, and babbling about a laughing fox. Of course no one believed me. They said I probably ate the wrong kind of mushroom or got turned around and panicked. But I hadn't eaten anything from the woods. I was prepared. I knew those trails. What scared me the most, weeks later, when I checked my pack, I found something tucked in the bottom flap that I'd never put there. A stone. Just one. Painted with a tiny red smile. Since then, I've read up on lore. Some call it a yokai, others say it's a skinwalker, or an old native spirit that mimics joy to lure you deeper. But I call it what I saw, the laughing fox. If you're ever alone in the woods, and the animals are gone, and the trees feel too close, and you hear laughter, don't follow it. Don't laugh back. And whatever you do, don't smile. Now, I didn't really put a lot of input, a lot of my thoughts in that, but it's actually gave me chills. I don't know why, but I guess the description of how this fox supposedly looked made my skin crawl. Just the fact that it did not even sound like it was a fox. It sounded like an amalgamation of someone that went through a radioactive fallout of sorts. And it has made my skin crawl. I don't know how, don't know why, but it did. Alright, well, hopefully I don't hear laughter tonight because that'd be the last thing I need to hear tonight, is laughter. Anyways, this one is submitted by Carter J. from Nebraska. The Night Visitors is what he's called the story, and it looks like he's only told it once. That name. Did I see it in the papers? No. I'm skimming through it, and it looks like it was too early for me. No, too recent for me to have seen it in the papers. Alright, whatever. I've only told this story once before, and the person I told looked at me like I lost my damn mind. I don't blame him. Hell, I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't lived it. But it's been 6 years, and I'm still waking up most nights, drenched in sweat and scared to look out the window. It happened in the summer of 2017. I live in a small farming town in Nebraska, barely a blip on the map. My house is surrounded by fields and open sky. On a clear night, you can see every star, every constellation. It's peaceful, usually. The night was different from the start. The air was still, not quite still, like even the wind had been sucked out of the world. I was on my porch around 11 p.m. having a cigarette, watching the sky. Then I noticed something strange. There was a light. Not like a star or a plane. It was too low. Hovering over the field behind my barn, maybe 200 feet off the ground. Bright white, no sound. At first I thought it was a drone. Then it split. The light separated into 3 smaller lights that floated in a perfect triangle. Then they started rotating silently. I stood there frozen. Every hair on my body stood up, like mine is right now. I felt watched, like they knew I was looking at them. I took out my phone and tried to record it, but my screen went black. The whole phone just shut off. No warning. Then I heard a sound, not from the lights, from the barn. Now, this is where I will question your sanity of going, why go to the barn? Why? Like, is it not common sense for people to not follow creepy noises? Or is it just everybody's, curiosity that kills the cat moment? Oh well. Let's see. It was a metallic, slow scraping, like something dragging a pipe across the floor. I hadn't been in that barn for weeks. There was nothing in there that should be making that kind of sound. I should have gone inside, locked the doors, but something pulled me toward it, like curiosity mixed with fear. See, curiosity killed the cat, right there, just plain and simple. I walked down toward the barn, flashlight in hand, trying to stay calm. When I opened the barn doors, the smell hit me first. Burnt ozone and something like wet copper, and then I saw the figures. 3 of them. Tall, thin, 7 foot at least, skin like ash, big heads, long arms that bent too low, and those eyes, huge, black, and glassy. Like they sucked in the light around them. They didn't speak. Something hit me in my head. A pressure, a voice that wasn't a voice. Do not run. I didn't. I couldn't. I stood there, heart thundering, paralyzed as one of them walked closer. His movements were jerky, like it was learning how to walk in real time. It stopped just a few feet from me. Then it touched my forehead. Now, before I continue, because there's still more to this story, Um, I know everybody would have a different reaction to this, and what I'm about to say probably won't match my reaction, but I think, I, I'm trying to think of words to say, probably it'll make me feel at least somewhat coherent in my own head. But I guess I would probably not run, even though probably deep down I would, because that's not something I would actually want to listen to, something that tells me not to run, but then felt like I'm paralyzed. I'd hope I just fall to the floor. But again, everybody would react differently in this situation. Some might like it, some might not. I'd probably be one of you that just don't. Alright, back to it. Then it touched my forehead. I don't remember anything after that. Just cold. Endless cold and lights. Flashing colors and patterns I can't even describe. And pain somewhere deep inside, like they were pulling out something more than just my body. I woke up on the floor of the barn. Morning light was coming through the gaps in the boards. My clothes were on backward. My nose was bleeding. My phone was sitting outside the barn with 3% battery, even though I hadn't plugged it in. I went to the doctor a week later. I started getting migraines and my memory felt fuzzy. They found a small metal shard right behind my ear embedded in the skin. No injury wound, no scarring. They couldn't explain it. Said it was probably an old injury. I'd never had surgery in my life. Since then, I've had dreams. Always the same floating lights, pressure in my skull, and a voice telling me not to resist. And every night that it happens, when I wake up drenched in sweat, my clock says the same thing. 3:33 a.m. every single time. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. They're real. And if you're out in the middle of nowhere and the sky goes too quiet, don't look up. Now I'm wondering how many stories are out there that have because I know there's probably a decent amount of people that have experienced such things like this before, and with the blasted internet out there, you'd hear about it pretty much anywhere, everywhere. If not on the telly, not on the papers, but somewhere out there you'd hear it. But either way, it's still creepy, nonetheless. Again, I don't know how I'd probably react to that. As long as I know I'm not going to be harmed, I guess I should be fine. But anyways, we got a couple more two more long stories and a short one, maybe. We'll see. But this one is submitted by Travis N. It does not look like they tell us where, though. Nope, they do. I've never written in one of these sites before, but I figured it's time I get this off my chest. I'm 41 now, but I still think about that night like it happened yesterday. I was 17 when it happened, 1999, just before senior year. I've only told 3 people about it. Most people would laugh. I don't really blame them. I'd probably laugh too if I had seen it with my own eyes. My cousin Joey and I used to camp up in Six Rivers National Forest, way up near the Oregon border. Beautiful but remote, thick woods, the kind of place where the trees press in on you and you don't see another soul for miles. It was a weekend tradition during the summer. Tents, beer, firewood, and old horror stories around the campfire. Now, before I continue, am I the only one that's noticed that a lot of this happens in the woods? And again, you guys you have beer, and it's like, who knows what other substances you're not saying? So how would I know if you guys are actually not just off your rockers? Oh well. We had a favorite spot next to the narrow creek. Nothing official, but perfect. We made it ours over the years. There we go. That weekend it was just the 2 of us. The others bailed last minute. Joe and I didn't care. We were tough guys back then, or so we thought. We made camp, set up the fire pit, and cracked open a couple warm beers. I remember it was usually quiet that evening. No birds, no crickets. The air was still and not in a peaceful way. Like something was off. Well, if it's what I think it is, again, anything that's almost like an apex predator or of sorts, is gonna make everything go quiet. It says something to Joey about it and he brushed it off. Storm coming? He said. But there wasn't a cloud in the sky. We were sitting by the fire an hour after sundown when we heard it. Snap. Loud, deliberate, like a thick branch being stepped on. Joey went quiet. We both turned our heads towards the sound. It came from across the creek. Dense woods, where no one should be. We both had a flashlight, so Joey shined his into that direction. But we didn't see anything. Just trees and underbrush. Then came the breathing. Again with the breathing. Why is it always the breathing? Heavy, labored, like something big was just on the edge of the light. I called out. No answer. Just breathing. Joey picked up his hatchet and grabbed the camping knife. And I grabbed the camping knife. We weren't brave, just stupid and young. Like most people, it seems. Youngsters and their stupidity. I started walking toward the creek, thinking maybe it was a bear. But then we saw it. Stepped into the light. It wasn't a bear. Tall, easily 8 feet, maybe 9. Massive shoulders, long arms that nearly touched the ground. Covered in dark, matted hair. Its eyes reflected the light in a way I'll never forget. Red like coals. It didn't make a sound, just stared at us. I froze. Couldn't move. Joey whispered, "Back up now." As we slowly stepped back and took a step forward, the ground shook. It let out this low rumbling sound like a growl, but deeper. Like something's there, something that's been alive a long time and knows it's the apex predator. See, right there, apex predator. They took the words right out of my mouth. Or they reused my words. Anyways. Without warning, it let out a scream. High-pitched, inhuman, it echoed through the forest and made my blood run cold. I dropped my flashlight and ran. Joey's right behind me and we didn't stop until we were back at the truck. Nearly a mile down the trail. We drove out there like the devil himself was on our heels. First off, devil won't let you get away, probably. We didn't speak the whole ride home. The next day we went back with my uncle and a couple rifles, just in case. Our campsite was trashed, the cooler was ripped open like a can of tuna, the firewood was scattered, one of our folding chairs was snapped in half, the frame twisted like wire, and across the creek we found a massive footprints. Not boot prints, but not bear tracks. 5 toes, human-like, but each one was the size of a sausage. My uncle just looked at us and said, "We don't talk about this." We didn't. Not until now. I don't know what we saw. Maybe it was Bigfoot, maybe it was something older. Something that doesn't want to be found, but I know this. It's out there. And if you ever find yourself in those woods and night suddenly goes quiet, if you hear the trees creak without wind, if you feel eyes on you but see nothing, leave a now. Alright. That's very typical, in my opinion. That's very typical in that scenario, but it's pretty good. I like it. It's creepy. Surprised it didn't do anything because a lost story is based off if it is Bigfoot. You'd think it'd be more violent, but again, there's been some people that see it, some people that get attacked by it. Supposedly, everybody has their different experiences. Anyways, here's from what the studio or who is it? It's the other person in the studio. They are pointing at me. They're pretty much showing me the time, and it looks like we don't have that much time left. So we will get one more story in, and this one is one of my more terrifying ones to me because it is on the ocean this time. Submitted by Carter L., a former marine biologist. I spent my whole life on the water. Born and raised in a little coastal town in Maine, I started crewing boats before I could even shave. Studied marine biology, then worked contracts across the world from the Pacific trenches to deep ocean sound monitoring in the Atlantic. I've walked thousands of hours at sea, and I've seen things that most people won't believe, but what happened in 2007 is the one thing I will take to my grave because I still hear it when I close my eyes. We were running a month-long research mission off the coast of Greenland following strange readings coming out this Denmark Strait, sonar anomalies, unexplained pressure changes, and this is key. A sound none of our equipment could identify. It didn't match any known wells, submarine tectonic shift, nothing. It was deep, guttural, and came in short pulses like breathing. So we were on the SS Hartley, a converted trawler with a skeleton crew of 8. The plan was to deploy hydrophones and map a section of the sea for roughly 200 nautical miles offshore, remote, isolated ocean as black as ink. For the first week, everything was standard, cold, quiet, nothing to write home about. But then came day 9. We picked up that sound again, closer this time, stronger, like something had followed us. My partner, Elena, swore the pitch had changed, almost like it was responding to us. That night I was on deck alone, smoking and watching a moon shimmer on the water, and that's when I felt it. The ocean lurched. Now, right here, that's where I would probably start hauling ass back to shore, because there's no damn way I will stay on the ocean if my ship lurched, or the ocean lurched. Not a wave, not a wind, something moved underneath us. The whole boat shifted like it was riding the back of something massive. I grabbed the railing and stared into the dark. No splash, no wake, just the slow sinking feeling in my gut that something ancient had just passed beneath our kill. The captain tried to brush it off as seismic activity. I think you'd know if it was seismic activity for one, but again, me, no marine biologist. He said, but you could see it in his eyes. He knew better. Later that night, our communications cut out. No satellite, no GPS, not even a short wave. Every system fried at once. One of the guys below deck said he heard a scraping along our hull, like claws dragging along metal. Elena and I ran diagnostics, and everything looked like it had been short-circuited, like something had sent out electromagnetic pulse, and we saw it. Tentacle. Just after 2 a.m., we heard the thunder splash off the port side. When we ran out with lights, there was a long, slick black appendage slowly sinking back into the water. At first, I thought it was a whale breaching, but it was too long. It coiled, it had ridges, and it disappeared without a trace. We were frozen. No one spoke. The cook crossed himself. I'll never forget the smell. Briny, rotten, like something dredged up from the trench that hadn't seen daylight in millennia. We tried to turn back, but the engines wouldn't respond. The ship was just drifting. The next morning, we discovered our stern anchor had been ripped off. Not unhooked. Ripped. As in still snapped. Then we heard scream. That was when the screaming started. One of our younger crew, a guy named Miles, vanished. We found blood on the upper deck railing. No body, just blood and suction marks the size of dinner plates on the deck near where he stood watch. But then morale collapsed. We stopped sleeping at shifts. We all stayed on the bridge watching the sea waiting. 3 more days, the thing stalked us. You hear it moving below the surface. Feel it in your bones before you hear it. Sometimes a glimpse, an enormous shadow just beneath the waterline. Sometimes a flash of a curling tentacle breaching the waves only to disappear again. And on the final night, it rose. We saw the head, or what we think the head, jagged barnacle encrusted, eyes the size of lanterns, multiple, watching us, and the sound it made, it wasn't just noise, it was a call, something intelligent. Then silence. Just before dawn, everything went still. The sea frightened my glass. The pressure lifted, and we drifted back into satellite range. The Navy picked us up 2 days later. They took our ship, took our recordings, interviewed us all separately, told us it was a rogue giant squid encounter that Miles fell overboard during bad weather, that we'd suffer from stress and hallucination. But I kept a copy of the audio. I'll play it sometimes late at night just to remind myself I'm not insane. You can hear it in the background of the hydrophone tapes, a slow, steady pulse, like something breathing at the bottom of the sea. The Kraken, it isn't a myth. It's real. It's not just tentacles and sailor legends. It's something old, something that doesn't belong to us, something we've never meant to find, and I think it's still watching. And that is where I say I would never go on the ocean. If that is a thing out there, I hope not, because I actually do like the ocean, but I'm also terrified of it at the same time, which I think is a lot of people. I don't have much thoughts left on it besides the fact that I can see why he's retired. I would be too after an encounter like that. But that is going to be it for tonight, my dear listeners. The hour grows late, and our time together fades like the mist in the morning light. We have walked through shadows, whispered of the unknown, and peered behind the veil, but even the strangest of our journeys must pause for now. So rest easy, my darlings, though I cannot promise the things we've spoken of won't linger in the corners of your mind. Perhaps you'll hear a soft tapping at your window, a voice whispering through the static, or maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself in a story yet to be told. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and always listen closely to the silence.
Today, District 7. You will say goodbye.